Guys, welcome back to my YouTube channel. So have you been wondering the process required to build a machine learning model? Then this video is for you, because in this video I'll be taking you step by step the processes you need to follow to build a machine learning model. So it doesn't matter whether you're a beginner or an expert that is looking at refreshing their memory. This tutorial is for you, because I'll be showing you step by step how you can actually build a machine learning model. But before we hop in, don't forget to subscribe, like, and share. Thank you so much for watching. Building a machine learning model can be challenging, but understanding the process involved in building a machine learning model is actually the game changer and what makes building a machine learning model easy. One thing you need to understand is models are built to solve a challenge or to make predictions which have to solve a challenge or to help a business or an organization make informed decisions. For example, let's say we are trying to build a model that is capable of predicting what the house price in a particular area would be in 5 years. So the big question is, what are the process of building an effective machine learning model? The first step of building a machine learning model is finding out your why. Once you are able to find out your why, the other steps become easier. Now, finding out your why starts from asking and answering critical questions like, why are you building a machine learning model, and what do you want the machine learning model to achieve? Do you want this model to predict house prices, predict if a customer is going to default in loan payment, or predict the percentage of customer that is going to churn in 4 years in a company? Now, after you've been able to decide your why, the next step in building a machine learning model is your data collection. Now, this process is one of the most important projects when building your machine learning model, because in this process, this is where you actually gather or collect your data you will use in building your machine learning model. There are various ways where you can actually gather data for building machine learning models. You can actually gather data from carrying out survey, where you can actually go into the field and talk to people in that is within your target audience. Like maybe let's say you're building a machine learning model to determine the house prices in a particular location. So to carry out a survey, what you have to do is you go to that particular location. You're actually trying to predict the house prices in the next 5 years. Now you take data from those people. You can take information like their name, how many bedroom flats they are living, and how much they actually pay per annum for their apartments. Or you can actually get data by using past data from a company or an organization. That is, if they actually store their data. Now, this data is what you will use in training your model. It is what you're going to feed your model with using your various machine learning algorithms. Now, after you have successfully gathered your data, the next step is to prepare your data. Now, when we are talking about preparing your data, we mean you're trying to make your data fit for building your model. Now, in this phase, this is actually where you perform your data cleaning. This is where you eliminate your missing values, duplicates, errors, inconsistent data types, and the rest of them. So this is where you just ensure that your data set is clean and free from errors, because there is no way you can actually build an effective model when you have a messed up data. Now, after cleaning your data thoroughly, the next step would be you drawing insights from your data. This is what we generally call exploratory data analysis, where we have the univariate, bivariate, and multivariate exploratory data analysis. Now, in this phase, you're trying to understand your data. You're trying to understand what is actually going on in your data. You're trying to uncover insights, seasonalities, and patterns. Let's say, for example, you're working on building a model that predicts house prices in the next 5 years in a particular area. Now, doing your exploratory data analysis, this is where you can draw insights like what determines the rent for a particular apartment in that area. Is it that 3-bedroom flats are more costly than 1-bedroom flat? Is it that the landlord factor also determines the rent? Or is it that the type of building, and if the building is a new or an old building, also contributes to the rent? Now, after drawing insights from your data, the next step is finding out what kind of model you actually want to build. Yes, in this phase, this is where our types of machine learning comes in to play. You need to understand your project and determine if it is a supervised or unsupervised machine learning project you're working on. You also need to know what exactly you want to predict. That is, you need to determine, is your target known or your target is unknown. Now, if you're certain that your target is known, then you have to determine if you're working on a binary classification machine learning model or if you're working on a regression machine learning model. Now, when we are talking about binary machine learning model, is where we have our yes or no. For example, if we are building a model to determine if a customer is going to default in repaying their loan, that is an example of a binary classification task where we have yes, they are going to default, or no, they are not going to default. But when we are talking at predicting the house rent for a particular area in like 5 years, now this is a regression task because we are actually working with continuous data. Now, after determining the type of machine learning model you're actually building, the next step is selecting your machine learning algorithms. Now, the type of machine learning model you are building determines the machine learning algorithms you're going to use. So if you are working on a supervised machine learning task, so you need to know that you have to make use of algorithms that are suitable for supervised machine learning tasks. But if you're working on an unsupervised machine learning task, then you have to make use of algorithms that are also suitable for unsupervised machine learning tasks. Now, it is important to know that when selecting your machine learning algorithms, so it is advisable to use 2 or 3 algorithms. So this will actually help you select which algorithm is actually your baseline model. Now, after determining the algorithms you're going to be working with, the next step is to divide your data set into test and train. Now, this is usually in a ratio of 70/30 or 70/20, depending on the volume of your data. Now, when we are talking about the trained data set, the trained data set is actually the data where you train your machine learning model, while the test data set is where you test your machine learning model after training it. Now, after splitting your data into the test and train, the next step is to start training and testing your data using your various algorithms and also using your train and test data sets. Like I mentioned earlier, it is actually advisable to use at least 3 different algorithms in order to decide which is your base model. In this stage, you must have to pay attention to underfitting and overfitting of your model. Now, once you have concluded your training and testing of your data, the next part is you go ahead to perform your feature engineering. Now, using your baseline model, you perform your feature engineering. Now, algorithms like random forest actually have feature engineering features where you can actually use the random forest algorithm to actually perform your feature engineering. Now, when you're performing your feature engineering, you're trying to select the features that directly affects the performance of your model. And after selecting the features that directly affects the performance of your model, then you can go ahead to retrain your model on these features. Now, after performing your feature engineering, the next important thing you have to do is evaluate your model. Now, you can actually evaluate your model using various evaluation metrics suitable for your machine learning model. Also, you need to understand that the type of machine learning model you're working on determines the type of algorithms you're going to be using. Now, you have to evaluate your model using various evaluation metrics where we have the F1 score, the precision, the accuracy, and the rest of them. Now, after evaluating your model, you can go ahead to retrain your model based on your evaluation. Now, the final process in your machine learning model is deployment. Now, when you're deploying your machine learning model, you're actually pushing it out into a working environment. You can actually deploy it using Streamlit or using Flask or using Azure or other various ways you can actually deploy your machine learning models. So these are the main processes involved in building a machine learning model.